Okay, we're going to go on to number 2. It's our public comment. Renee Pinckney, are you here? Is she on Zoom? Renee, are you on Zoom? We might be a little early for her, so we will come back to this. We only had one person sign up for public comment this time. So, Dr. Dixon, are you okay to go ahead and we'll go to number 3? You will be. And your mic is not.
I think, Madam Chair, that it's the first that we've had one public comment, and so I was not prepared for that. Well, let's see, we've got employee recognition. We'll start with that, and let's see, is Norley here? Everybody, we're just throwing everybody off, Madam Chair, sorry.
That's what other groups do. And they need to salt stall.
I think we're, I don't know where Norley is, but I think. There she is. Thank you, Miss Norley. All right, Miss Norley, I think we'll have you come and sit at a chair up front there, so we can just stare at you as we talk about you. Oh, well, thank you, Madam Chair, and good morning, board members. It's good to be with you and good to see you. I know that we met last month, but as you all walked in the door, I just felt so excited to see you. It just feels like it's been a couple of months, even though it's been maybe 6 weeks. So good to be with you all. You all know Norley Green. You've had the pleasure of working with her, of being a part of her professionalism and the sunshine that she just brings to the office every day. And so she was recently nominated. This is not her first honor in this slot of Employee of the Month, but we're so happy that she's honored again. And she is the epitome of professionalism, dependability, and customer service. And you all know that, those of you that have worked with her. The Standards and Assessment Committee has been deeply engaged in creating a guidance document to the field and a few other things that they've been busy with, right, Chair Hansen? And this has placed a great amount of additional work on Norley in coordinating public comments, scheduling additional meetings, managing during the meetings, and then creating the summarized motions for hours upon hours of committee meetings. And she's been doing this for over a year while she's engaged in this work. You know that she's been assisting Dr. Norman and has recently moved over into finance. And I have watched Norley toggle both worlds at the same time in transition. So I don't know if you're sleeping, Norley, but we really appreciate you taking on double duty. And if you know Norley, she's done all of this without complaint, and she's always worrying about the rest of us. She's worrying about everybody around her, and you'll see a little treat or just such a little kindness that just appears out of nowhere because she's always outwardly focused. Even though her workload has really landed squarely on her shoulders, she always finds the time to do this lightening of load for others. And you've heard me talk about being a builder, and she is a builder. She's just always trying to build and uplift and add to the culture of our workplace. So there's just only one Norley, and we're so grateful that we know her and we love Norley and are so happy to honor her as Employee of the Month. So thank you, Norley. Right, I think we'll move on to Kathy Jensen with artwork. And Ryan's going to pull up a couple of slides for us.
May I just also make a quick comment?
Yes, go ahead, Board Member Cannon.
We had like one party last year, and Norley Green did the most incredible job to help us. She was just wonderful. And oh, I so appreciate her because she makes things fun and she's so capable and competent. She's just a delight to work with.
Thank you, Board Member Cannon. Go ahead, Kathy.
Good morning, Kathy Jensen, Fine Arts Education Specialist. Thank you for this opportunity, Superintendent and Board Chair. I appreciate it. The art that you see today comes from Beverly Taylor Sorensen, Arts Education Specialist at Eastwood Elementary in the Granite School District. And her name is Shannon Petty. We're really pleased to show part of a mural that was on the whole west side of the school. If you know where Eastwood is, it sits right on the 215 freeway on the East Belt Route. And these murals were in the windows of the school. And I have some slides if Ryan. Okay. I have a slide from the inside of the school and from the outside of the school. But this is a stained glass workshop that was done with tissue paper and other paper and lamination. And the students studied about the American artist Alma Woodsy Thomas. She was known for abstract paintings that loosely represent nature and repetitive lines. So second to fifth grade students then each made their own square that followed a template or a pattern, and then the teacher worked together to put those together into this amazing mural. So here you see from the inside how big and impressive this work was by the entire school. And then the next slide shows the view from the outside. The first grade used laminated butcher paper with tissue paper and colored plastic and glue. The second grade did the flowers that you see on the northeast wall in a kind of an Andy Warhol inspired garden. The third grade did laminated, I already said third grade did the same as the first grade with the laminated butcher paper and tissue paper. Fourth grade did these works where they folded the paper kind of like they were cutting a snowflake. And then they cut out the papers, or cut out the pieces, put colored behind it, and then doubled it up so that it was different on the front and the back. And that is the case in all of the pieces. They have both a front and a back so they can hang on the windows, and they're good on the inside and the outside. This mural was made prior to pandemic. So the cool thing that it has existed all this time, and Shannon Petty at Eastwood Elementary School was willing to share it with us. So thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much, Kathy. I want to express gratitude to the board for continuing to have art as part of our board meeting. I just think it's such an important tradition. And when I walk into schools and see the humanities being taught explicitly and showcased in schools, it really can be the lifeblood of a school and adds so much to the culture. And I appreciate that the board continues to value the arts as part of your board meeting. So thank you, and thank you, Kathy, and to those who support you for putting all of this together. I'm going to drive by Eastwood. It's close to my house, so I'll have to make a
Well, two of the
trip to
pieces are
Eastwood.
here, so I don't.
There's probably a lot of talk out there in the neighborhood about what happened to those two missing pieces. Thank you. I want to highlight today two things. As part of my reporting back to you on our stock takes for the strategic plan and our goals, I wanted to highlight early learning. I've been able to visit a couple of schools. And Ryan, if you'll go back to that the opening slide, or Kelsey, whoever's driving, right there. So I had the opportunity to visit Hurricane Elementary last week and popped in on a full day K. So this would be, even though they started 3 weeks ago, this is their second week of school. And Principal Lowe talked to me about the difference that they're already seeing. The teacher of this full day K classroom said that normally where she's at now with phonemic awareness and some of the phonological work that she's doing, that would have been almost a month into the school year. So to be able to see that kind of progress with kids who have that extended time, as well as being able to develop play and some of those things that are such an important element of kindergarten, she has already noticed a huge difference. And all of their kiddos, they have full day K course classes, and I think he said 95% of their kids are enrolled in full day K. And then those parents who choose not to keep their kids in full day K have an exit time during the day that works for them. So that was nice to see it already 2 weeks into the school year and hear that kind of progress. So I want to talk more about the early learning goal. And one of my favorite meetings is our stock take meetings, where we meet with the goal leader and talk about the progress that they've made. And your goal is, as you remember around early learning, is to promote high quality instruction in every early grade classroom. This is 1A. So this is the strategy under the goal of early learning that I want to report to you on. You invested in letters training. You can go to the next slide, Ryan. Thank you. You invested in letters training, so we thought we would report back to you. You can see the numbers. So there are over 8,000 individuals who are involved in the training. There are 3,600 more that are starting this fall, so already engaged in that. So that's when you think about, we have a workforce of over 28,000 educators. That's classroom teacher. I should say classroom teachers. We have more when you expand that to other educators. So that is really a high number of our teachers involved in letters training. Our staff has done a really good job of getting feedback from teachers who are involved. And the response to letters, you all have heard from people who were overwhelmed by it at the beginning, I'm sure. And the response over time has been very positive, with 94% feeling that the professional learning that they received really deepened their understanding of early literacy, and it built their capacity to continue to use those skills and strategies that they learned in the classroom. And that transference shows you the quality of professional learning. We have professional learning standards, and oftentimes it stops at that awareness level and doesn't translate to practice. So that speaks to the quality of the professional learning that they're getting. And then 95% of the respondents talked about how it helped them grow as a professional. And just based on time, I won't go into the quotes, but there are a number of quotes that I'm happy to send you that we pulled out from this training. Excuse me. I will go back and share one because I thought it was so poignant. There was a teacher who was a veteran teacher. She'd been teaching first grade for a long time. And she said that for the first time, she really was able to notice, not only notice the gaps in some of their foundational knowledge, but then she knew what to do. And for the first time felt like she really could target some of those gaps. I thought that was really profound. I think that's the case of a lot of our teachers, that they just haven't known what to do sometimes when they encounter some of these gaps in instruction. So just shout out to our staff and the leadership. I know Sarah Wiebke especially has carried a heavy load with all of this, and has just done an amazing job with leading the way, and shout out to her staff as well. We're changing the nature of literacy in this state, and I just want to thank the board for investing in early learning. The next thing I want to report on is Portrait of a Graduate in our schools. When we rolled this out, it was intended to not be adopted by the state. It's just intended to be a model and a way of thinking about how we do our work. And we wanted it to be very aspirational. And it's been interesting to see some of the things that have emerged from this. So in Alpine, for example, they took their, they have a theme that they work on every year, but in talking to leaders from Alpine, they said, we really wanted to combine all of the things that we've been working on to make a very meaningful model for our students and our staff and our families. And so they adopted the 6 C's, and you can correct me, Board Member Davis, if I stray from this, but those 6 C's are something that you can hear students and teachers and parents and everyone articulate. And these are the things that they're building And you can see how the parent, the teacher, and the student are all integrated as a really important part of their system. Now, I don't know if you can see those. I'll read them aloud just in case you can't. So for the parent role, they see two key functions of knowing that the parent is the first and primary teacher of the student. So helping the school by promoting daily attendance. Attendance has been down across the state. It's something that we're focused on. So they see that as maybe a key lever for parents in their ongoing support to help promote daily attendance and focus on learning instead of being so focused on grades. From the student perspective, really trying to help the student have a desire to engage in deep learning with those 6 C's as well, and practice resilience and self-governance. And then from the teacher perspective, to foster well-being and connection and deliberately develop those deep learning skills. I was listening to a TED Talk by David Brooks, if you know who he is, and I assume he's still a columnist for the New York Times. But he was talking about resume virtues versus eulogy virtues. And that terminology struck me. And he talked about the resume virtues. That's one of our primary functions in school. We work on the academics and all of the things that we expect students to leave our schools with. But then he also focused on what he called eulogy virtues that speak to the heart and soul and the character of a person. And I think these 6 C's are really what Alpine is trying to get at, those eulogy virtues of how do you develop character, how do you develop critical thinking and communication skills. You can see how all of those are very much woven into the academics. I was listening to a young man, the student body president from Farmington High, as I was driving in this morning. KSL, every week now, they are live at a high school, and they happen to be at Farmington High, and they were interviewing Blake, the student body president. And he talked about some of these skills as being important. He loves the academics at his school, but he talked about how some of these skills are really important. So that's Alpine. And then drilling down to Timpanogos High School. Some of you have been to visit Timpanogos, where you can see personalized competency-based learning at play. And also they've adopted the tenets of Portrait of a Graduate. And I'll just read, just for those who are online and might not be able to see the visuals. Dr. Jensen said, simply put, students are happier and teachers are happier in this environment, and academic and well-being outcomes are also better. We genuinely feel the joy of schooling in this environment as we pursue the outcomes articulated in USBE's Portrait of a Graduate. So there's a high school example, and many of you have been able to be there and see it and feel it in a very visceral way. The next example is at San Juan, and they have been doing some interesting work in their district. When I made a visit a few years ago, the counselors were trying to help students really see how what they were learning was connected to life after school, to secondary opportunities. And they have adopted their own Portrait of a Graduate. And mind you, when these Portrait of a Graduates are developed, they are done so with community input. When you talk to those where they've been developed, they bring parents together and teachers and students, and really they are organic and ground up, which I think is a very important element. So the principal, Karina Fife, Principal Fife from Monument Valley High School, which has got to be the most beautiful setting for a high school in this entire state. It's incredible. And she said, as a district leadership team, we focused on comprising the information we obtained and developed in San Juan's Portrait of a Graduate. Individual schools will be furthering this work throughout the year. We believe this document will continue to grow and improve over time. The Portrait of a Graduate is a cumulative of why we do what we do in education. It represents San Juan School District's constituents and captures the essence of our critical work. And when you're in their school, you see how they've embedded the culture of the community and how they value what the parents and the families in San Juan bring to that community, and they further perpetuate those in the high school as their Portrait of a Graduate. And then the next example is from Granite, and Superintendent and I sent in a video. They've developed sort of this video for families to help them understand where they're going with Portrait of a Graduate, and we'll make sure that you get that. We can probably put that in backup and attach that so you can drill down a little bit. But they have 3 areas of priority, and they are really trying to actuate those in the classroom at the student level through these key objectives, strategies, and measures of improvement. Their graduate of Granite, as they're calling it, defines the course for our schools and our district collectively. Each school purposely designs their individual continuous improvement plan to align with the priorities, objectives, and strategies outlined in the Graduate of Granite strategic plan. And I know that you all can read as adults, but we have been studying trying to be ADA compliant and making sure that those who are listening online have access to this information as well. So that's why I'm modeling reading it for you today. I apologize. So you can see they have created 6 items as well, much like the 6 C's of Alpine. There's our, and I'm going to have to turn around to see these, sorry, communication, hard work and resilience, respect, dependability, responsibility, and academic proficiency. And you can really see this start to take root in the schools. Again, students talking about it, teachers, families. And that's the key, is that the entire community works together to not only develop these portraits, but also understanding what this means for their students as they leave the system. I will tell you, as a former elementary principal, one who embedded life skills in our school, I had, at the time, 820 students without an assistant principal. So it was a school of a lot of kiddos and a lot of really supportive families. And we worked on life skills, and I knew that they were taking root when I had a young man who was a lot taller and bigger than the rest of his peers. And he was often throwing things and pushing desks over and just had a lot of anger. And one day he pushed his desk over and things just flew all over. And this little tiny kid came to him and said to him, I'll use the name Josh because it was a typical name at the time. And he said, Josh, if you'll use the life skill of cooperation, we can help you get this cleaned up and move on. And so all these little kids huddled around and helped Josh clean up his desk and bring everything off the floor. And I watched Josh's behavior change over time because his peers were helping teach him some life skills. So really appreciative of how Portrait of a Graduate is taking root and that it's coming organically from the LEAs. They are developing their own portraits of graduates, and they're involving families and students and teachers to develop these portraits because they believe it's best for their community. They take their context and their culture into consideration when developing these intended outcomes for their students. So really proud to see this work going on, and thank you, board, for your development and support of Portrait of a Graduate. Last but not least, I think this is our last one, right, Ryan? Canyon School District, and you met Mindy Robinson, the principal from Midvale Middle School, as she was honored as one of our principals from UA SSP in our June meeting, I believe it was. And I was speaking about Portrait of a Graduate last winter at a principal's meeting, and she was so excited. I think we had an hour-long conversation afterwards because she talked about how, as a principal, these are the things that she believes in her heart are such an important part of their school. And you can see her enthusiasm here as she talks about implementing Portrait of a Graduate. Through a weekly homeroom lesson, we are teaching students about the competencies and how to apply them in their lives. We believe the competencies allow the students to see all their strengths and help them develop in areas that they want to continue to grow in. So there you have a variety across the state, from San Juan to Granite, to Canyons, to Alpine and Timpanogos High. And I think this sums it up from Mindy, where she says, our hope is that students can learn the importance of mastery, autonomy, and purpose while focusing on serving one another. So as we think about our kids developing those resume virtues, I think these eulogy virtues, you can see how they're making a difference in schools. And that's my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Superintendent. Appreciate that. We're going to go back to number 2 and go to 2.1. Renee Pinckney, are you online? Yes? Okay, that will, okay. Yep. Thank you, Jay. You'll have to turn the mic on. Thank you.
How's that? Oh, okay.
Thank you.
I'm sorry. I'm Jay Blaine, the Policy and Research Director for UEA, and Renee had an emergency this morning. So unfortunately, you have to look at me instead of her today. What we'd like to speak to the board, but first of all, thank you for allowing me to take her place and speak to you today. I'd like to speak to you about R277609, the rule that you're going to talk about a little bit later, on which you had the public hearing a few weeks ago. And our recommendation is that you pass the rule as is. And we supported the underlying bill on which this rule was based, House Bill 428, a bill that had a lot of support in the legislature. The House passed the bill 65-9. The Senate passed the bill 19-10. And there was a lot of support there for it. It was worked on, a lot of collaboration on the bill. Went to a second substitute, and there was some good work done there. The rule has some very good pieces in it, and the underlying philosophy is that we believe every student deserves a safe, harassment-free, discrimination-free environment in which to learn. Equally, every education employee deserves the same type of environment in which to work. This is extremely important. It's not an unattainable goal. It's a goal for which we should strive every day, every classroom, every work site, every place where education is happening in the state of Utah. The bill was subtitled Izzy's Bill. I believe we're all familiar with the story of Izzy and the heartbreaking story that it was. There are stories nearly every day, it seems like, heartbreaking stories in our media about discriminatory incidents, hate incidents, and probably there's incidents that never even come to light where the safety of students and or educators is compromised. And anything we can do to work towards environments that produce better learning and better workplaces for all of our educators and students is a step in the right direction. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Sorry about her problem this morning.